And we're live. We're back with comic books on TV live here on YouTube. Hunter Terry and Ford Kendrick.
How's it going, people? We're gonna finish up the year in nerd movies today. Don't know yesterday. I guess I pulled something out of my ass totally entirely and thought the Fantastic Four came out this year, which definitely did not. Ben Hur did come out this year and also bombed, but also starred Toby Kebbell from Fantastic Four. So,
and Fantastic Four, to be fair, did suck. So everything that we said still stands.
That guy was really annoying in Fantastic Four, so I'm not like a fan of him. But what a way to start your career! FF, total bomb, and Ben Hur, total bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure who thought Ben Hur was a good idea, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really qualify as a nerd movie, even though it could have had they actually remade the original Ben-Hur. But instead, the new one was like, they were like, let's get the Passion of the Christ, the faith-based audience. So instead of just remaking Ben-Hur, they actually stuck a Jesus story for 3/4 of it in it.
Actually, I was channel surfing the other day, and Turner Classic Movie had a movie on that was said Ben-Hur, A Story of the Christ from 1936 or 1930. So I bet
that's the original Ben-Hur. It just didn't deal. It's just a lot less Christy, even though it's had it in the title than the new one.
Well, I'm saying that the one that's famous is from the 50s or so, or late 40s. Charlton Heston or some shit maybe. That one's a little bit after, so that's the one that I'm familiar with, and the one that I assumed they were remaking was the one from the 50s, which was much less Jesus-y.
Yeah, and actually you're right. Yeah, that is the way they remade the one from the earlier one. Yeah, I think that is what happened. Anyway, so we left off yesterday with we destroyed Batman v Superman and praised Civil War, though less effusively than after we saw it. And that left us with Age of Apocalypse, I think, was the next one up.
Yep, Age of Apocalypse is next. It was released in late May, and I believe that your opinion on this is probably more negative than mine. So while I have plenty of issues, I will let you go first, and then we'll see what I agree with and what I want to try and make an attempt to defend.
Okay, well, I kind of hated this movie. Just throwing that out there. It took. I mean, the X-Men have awesome. Let me just start over a second. It took 2 Apocalypse stories and didn't do either one well. Either do Age of Apocalypse and the end of the world and him taking over and have an alternate timeline, or do a toned down Apocalypse and mainly from the animated series where they fought in all kinds of episodes. And instead, this was just it felt like there were 3 scripts and that they were filming versions of 3 different scripts.
It seems to me like ever since he didn't get to do the Dark Phoenix story in X-Men 3, when he instead went over and that all Singer has in mind is going for the Doomsday story. And so he does Days of Future Past, which I liked. I didn't think it was perfect, but I liked it a lot. But that gets pretty fucking huge at the end, and that's Apocalypse style story. And then this one, there's plenty of Apocalypse things that are a little bit smaller. The whole Archangel story could have been a great lead-in to a much more subdued version of this movie. Or, like you said, he could have gone kind of the show version and moved on to the Legacy virus. Place to go, and instead, of course, he went with introducing a villain, end of the world, and that was just kind of a bit much.
So my theory on what happened with this movie is that you always hear of actors and directors and writers walking out of Marvel and DC with stacks of comics and stuff. You always see those pictures of there goes Olivia Munn and she's holding a stack of Psylocke comics from the 90s. My theory is that Bryan Singer looked at the pictures and didn't actually read any of the comics from the 90s. Because the movie looks fantastic and they pose so well and they pose so often, which leads me to believe that he looked at a lot of Jim Lee covers.
That's so weird because that's never been a Bryan Singer thing. This guy Days of Future Past, it was a lot of story, and it was thick
Yeah.
into the story, and I mean, this guy comes from the Usual Suspects and smaller movies. Like, it's one of the reasons why I liked him as a choice for so long, and it seems like he just kind of blew out of all that.
Well, I mean, in X2, which is I think the best of the X-Men movies.
I'd agree.
It though I would X2 or Deadpool probably. You know, there's smaller stories. There's Lady Deathstrike. There's Stryker and his kid, and they all are fleshed out to where you kind of understand them. In this,
Yeah.
Apocalypse shows up and rolls his eyes back and storms an evil. He shows up to Psylocke, and they briefly they show one of the coolest things in X-Men, which is the underground mutants, and like how mutants have been run underground by society and have like formed a second, very much like the Futurama, Leela's parents under. Yes, but that's one of the coolest things about X-Men, and they show it. They're like, here, we're gonna go talk to Caliban, and it's for 5 seconds, and then they move on. And it's just one of those things where, like, that is one of the more interesting things in the X universe. It, you know, because the X-Men are and mutants in general have been Marvel's way to tell stories about racism, sexism, and, you know, homophobia for pretty much whatever decade this crisis is. They've kind of aped the X-Men and the thing.
No, I to be honest, I wouldn't have minded it if it was only 5 minutes, if it had then moved on to other intricate, deep stories. But I mean, that, and then the brief attempt at Magneto's, you know, recidivism and moving back and forth there. Those are the only two things they even tried to delve into, and I thought the Magneto part was. It was a valiant effort. Had we not seen they could do a lot better before, and that was also disappointing.
Have they made an X-Men movie yet where Magneto doesn't appear?
Deadpool and the Wolverine movies, I guess.
Right.
They haven't made an X-Men movie without Magneto. No.
That's my question, and that was what I was asking. Which Apocalypse, like, if you're gonna, okay, two things. One of my favorite parts of the movie was the flashback to the very first movie with his parents. That stuff was some of the best parts of the movie, but it also didn't need to be in the movie. One of the X-Men, unlike many Marvel villains or many Marvel heroes, have a maybe not quite Batman-esque rogues gallery, but their rogues gallery is deep and awesome. And Apocalypse is there, you know, is a top 2 or 3 X-Men villain who really has nothing to do with Magneto, other than in Age of Apocalypse, when Magneto happens to lead the X-Men and be married to Rogue. They don't have anything to do with each other. Like, why did he have to be in this movie? Why was he in this movie?
Because he's the most charismatic actor they have on contract. Because you're right. Other than were they just decide to use him to try and stop Apocalypse, which could have been more interesting up the route of Age of Apocalypse story. You're right. This is a great purpose. Because, I mean, beyond the fact that with Magneto and Apocalypse on the same team, really there's no way that they should have won or even come close.
That's okay. You're right. And then, okay, we're going to get to how Marvel solves Apocalypse sometimes here in a minute. But there's other things I want to get to first. The other thing is I love the X-Men. And, you know, the X-Men have bright, colorful costumes. They literally only put them in their costumes for 2. All right, and I count. There have been 9 X-Men movies, including 2 Wolverines, Deadpool, and all the actual X movies. In only 2 movies are they actually in their costumes: Deadpool and X-Men First Class, when they're in those the yellow and blue flight suits. Which those are close enough that I'll give them that they're in their costumes.
Yeah, I was cool with those.
We're in the 80s. Like, the 80s are all about people having flamboyant shit. Like, why couldn't, instead of Jean Grey having huge, bulky black shoulder pads, just make them point out to the side?
Yeah, and make them yellow and or blue. I mean, that kind of combination for an old one.
Or if you want them to be black, fine. I'm just thinking, just at the very least, make them pointy.
I mean, I guess in their very, very slight defense, the last scene, they do kind of give them a blacked up version of their 90s costumes in the danger room scene that kind of finishes the movie. And why that wasn't used earlier, why those costumes couldn't have been integrated beforehand. There's no excuse for. And I guess the only real defense is that Psylocke's costume was pretty comic book authentic.
Yeah, that was the closest costume that they've gotten yet in any of the X-Men movies. That one was the closest. And Psylocke, okay, Olivia Munn, whatever people want to think about her as being like a faux nerd girl or whatever, she was the best part of the newsroom.
She was great in the newsroom. I've liked her for quite a while now, but especially with the newsroom. And they gave her nothing in this.
I just wanted to shout out how good she was in the newsroom and how I know she can be at least charismatic. And she can banter, and she did Aaron Sorkin dialogue with fucking with as well as anybody else on that show. Now that whatever you want to get in the news, but she did that well. And in this movie, it was hyped for all get out because she did a good job showing on social media how in the first half of Aaron Rodgers' season this year by filming and training so hard. And she had like half a scene. I mean, did she have 4 lines?
Yeah, she had more than half a scene, but she had less than half a scene of dialogue. She had maybe, she didn't have even a full conversation of dialogue. She had a few, standalone lines here and there. That was really a disservice to her as an actress and to Psylocke as a character. Not that Psylocke is an amazing character, but she's way more than just that, than just a henchman.
And let's talk about how the 4 horsemen. Okay, Storm, Psylocke, Archangel, and Magneto. Only one of those has actually ever been one of the 4 horsemen. Like, yep. Archangel was actually pretty cool. Like, they, having a little talent and not being more vulture-like than like pretty bird-like was actually an interesting take on Angel. But he was relegated to, now I can shoot things and now I'm bad and now I don't, like, pretty much once Apocalypse showed up. Oh man, I just the plot line of this movie was bad, and that's my big part, is that the plot of it was not good, and there are other good Apocalypse stories that you didn't even need to really have to change that much, or if you're gonna have okay, you go first because I have another thing. So.
I thought that with Storm, they did a decent job at least showing her backstory. She's a thief running around Cairo. Now her real origin has much more to do with Professor X and the Shadow King and some other cool things there. But all right, if you want to mix Apocalypse into that, I can see that. But then I don't know. To give Angel such little backstory, I feel like it takes away all the power of Apocalypse turning him into Archangel. And so I would have just kind of skipped half of that. Same with Psylocke. Underground scene for a second, but then there's no character there at all for you to give a shit on Psylocke as far as what happens to her, or if she's being warped, or what he's doing. Magneto, I mean, at his worst, he's not just a mindless thug, and I really to almost all of those characters in the way that they told their Apocalypse story. I would have just as soon had them cut Magneto out and either save him for a kind of Deus Ex Machina at the end, or just leave him out completely, and then just show them introduce Archangel and Storm, already be his one of his horsemen, and then have maybe, I don't know, Caliban be turned, because Caliban was a horseman for a while. Have Wolverine be turned while he's Weapon X. Wolverine was a horseman for a while, or just have someone who wasn't famous be a horseman already ready to go, and use that extra time for some extra story development.
100%, I agree with all that. Yes, they just used the Magneto shouldn't have been in this movie. Just period. Like it looked real. Like they spent a fuck ton on that final thing, like that. But you know what? We've seen stuff rising into things. Like we've seen that a million times. It was looked crazy, but we've seen that before. He really didn't need to be in the movie, and yes, they could. But you did mention Wolverine, and that was fucking dope. Bryan Singer, and that was straight out of the comics.
Yeah.
They had him have the headgear. That was as brutal as Wolfie has ever been in any of these movies. that was super dope, and that was super dope.
Yeah,
I don't really have anything bad.
the Wolverine scene was great, and the Magneto trying to be human with his family. Like they kind of ripped half of that out of an early '90s comic, like Magneto's Year or something, and then like clunky. The idea that both his wife and daughter are killed by the same arrow that goes through both their hearts was a little bit on the nose, I thought, and by little I mean a lot on the nose. And it, I thought it wasn't as well as it could have been. And then from that point on, Magneto I felt like was superfluous. Well, really, I guess I thought that Magneto made everyone else superfluous.
He did. Now, so yes, but let's actually give them credit for the Wolverine thing. That was
no, the Wolverine scene was awesome. And look, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't despise this movie. I had fun. I left a lot of problems. Like, God damn it, why can they not just get this right? It was a bumpy ride. It was a long ride that could have been a little bit smoother and shorter. To be fair, I enjoyed the Quicksilver scene a lot. They do. I mean, like I guess were it me, I probably would have tried a new character to be my scene stealer, as opposed to just ripping myself off from 3 years ago. But it was still a good scene. The Wolverine scene, Weapon X scene was awesome. I liked what's her name, Sansa as Jean Grey. Her accent was a little distracting, but I thought she's a good actress and she carried it just fine. Phoenix, or the Phoenix arising scene at the end, well enough.
Just on the Sansa thing, I just thought it was mean. Like, is there anything like there's British people all up in this movie? Like, there's people with weird accents all up in this movie. Mutants are from everywhere. Like, it's just mean to make Sophie Turner try to do an '80s American Valley Girl accent. Like, just either let her be from New York, let her. I mean, because British people can do like our regional accents, but like the general American thing, it sounded horrible, and right. I was just like, just let her give her a British accent. She's fine. Like she's great on Game of Thrones. Just let her be British, or let her not have to be from LA or something. That being said, Jubilee was in this movie. In the trailer, she was, and then
she went to the movies with them, right? And that's it.
Didn't get anything else. Not even. Sorry, just she wasn't in the movie, but she was in the trailer, and that was one of the reasons that it was sold to me was, oh look, her costume's right.
Yep. No, I was just going to ask, was she even referred to as Jubilee or Jubilation in the movie? I can't remember, but
no,
you're right. I mean, she was there, kind of, not really.
And so anyway, the Weapon X scene was dope, and the scene at the end was cool. Now, usually they keep Magneto and Apocalypse separate because, again, they're the two X's biggest villains, and you don't need them both because you can't. You tell Magneto story and you tell Apocalypse and you flip back and forth because that's just what you do. The one time I can remember them teaming up was it was like in the mid 2000s, and Apocalypse like had some mind control over the clone of Magneto, so it wasn't Magneto.
Joseph dude.
Yeah, but he had his powers, and he did the whole thing and like ripping all the metal out the earth, and he's like, my Apocalypse was like, I have control over all the power in the world, and all the mutants are mine, and then Thor and Doctor Strange show up because it's Marvel, and they're like, well, we're not mutants. What are you gonna do against us? And just basically take care of them like a page and a half. That was kind of what this movie was missing. Like if the Odin's son had showed up at the end and be like, you know, what are you gonna do against my magic? Or something like that. I think would have been dope. They could have had, or is there a mutant they could have pulled out their ass? Because it's Marvel, they don't have to do that in the comics, right? They can just pull out other characters. But if I feel like they're other than just going Dark Phoenix again, like here's Doctor Strange to make you fight Dormammu, or here's Mephisto to send you to hell, or come up with a Marvel. You know, like there's a lot of random. Here's the Beyonder. Here's here's Thanos. Like any of the Marvel Deus Ex Machinas, I thought would have, if they had just thrown something else out there to the fans besides something that we had already seen before, even if that's something we had seen was cool, I think it would have been it definitely would have had my reaction being like, oh, that's so cool, rather than, oh, that's just kind of cool.
Give me just 1 sec. Keep going. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so I think we're probably done beating that dead horse. The problem with the X-Men is that the cartoon existed and did all of these stories better than any of the movies had ever even tried to do. And it's kind of the problem with the Batman movies too, with how good the series was. But the actual the imagery of the movie evoked specific comics, but it didn't evoke Apocalypse, which was probably the biggest reason why I wanted to see this movie so bad. Age of Apocalypse is the best X-Men story, and so if you're going to show in an Age of Apocalypse, yeah, showing Weapon X is super dope. But if you're going to show, like, here's what I was saying: if you're going to show images from Apocalypse, and yeah, Weapon X is a cool image to show, but you could have made Wolvie's hair all crazy, cut off his hand, and put him in a blue suit and give him some scars, and then we all would have been like, "Oh, Age of Apocalypse, Wolvie!" Like there was literally nothing in this movie related to the actual Age of Apocalypse comic. And that's
yeah, they definitely had nothing to do with Age of Apocalypse. The way it was kind of being leaked and promoted when it first started, but yeah, there was nothing there at all to indicate Age of Apocalypse. It was just a overblown apocalypse story. But whatever. I like I said, I didn't think it was the worst comic movie of the year, or definitely the last couple of years. And I'm glad out of it that Bryan Singer is moving along, because they need new blood.
They do, and I hope that it made enough money to keep making them. I think Deadpool did, so that kind of for sure will at least keep the universe going. So here's my thing. Bryan Singer's moving, and the best thing about the last 2 X-Men movies that he's done has been Quicksilver. We've lost 3 different Flash directors so far. I mean, he probably has a bad relationship with DC considering Superman Returns, but is there a better candidate, since they really can't find anybody, for Flash than the guy who's like epically done superhero speed on screen before?
He's definitely made some good scenes. And to be honest, his Superman Returns, I mean, the main problem there was just it was so reverential of the old 90s or the old 70s Superman things that it didn't have enough new stuff for old Superman fans, and didn't have enough action for old Superman fans. I don't think that lacking for action over the past few movies. And I bet giving him Flash, I bet he'd do just fine.
Yeah, it's just a thought, since he's definitely, but obviously that's not going to happen. So next coming out, I think, was Suicide Squad.
Next was Suicide Squad. Why don't you introduce it? Mom's calling me. Give me just 1 second to see what she needs.
Okay, Suicide Squad. Another movie that was pitched the opposite of the way that it came out. It was pitched like this super fun, hectic, like action movie kind of like early 90s, like Tony Scott movies, and instead it was a grim dark with 3 or 4 jokes that were obviously added in later when they decided it wasn't funny enough. And the worst Joker that we have ever seen on screen, even including Cesar Romero.
And self-pity right now. I don't have time to chat.
Yeah, so Suicide Squad was the hit that DC needed, but it was not the geek bona fide hit that DC needed.
I thought Suicide Squad was nowhere near as bad as the reviews that came out the day before had me worried, as far as it being a total clusterfuck or anything like that. I did think that what's her name's zombies, Enchantress's zombies were the weirdest, least motivated, least well explained villains I've seen in a long time. Like, it was kind of like they took the idea of those dudes from the Avengers, the Chitauri, whatever.
The Chitauri, yeah.
No explanation at all. And I finally, 3/4 of the way through, they show some soldier getting turned into one, but there was just no weight there. And then her brother was fairly, not well thought out at all either. There were some major issues I had with the villains. and I guess the other major issue I had was that villains on the Suicide Squad were pretty nice. You know, they're the worst of the worst, kind of, if you don't like insults. You know, and Will Smith, he's finally an assassin, and he shoots a mobster and some zombies, and he has a heart of gold. Now, I understand for Deadshot, his daughter part has been part of his character for 50 years. I have no problem with Deadshot being a assassin who isn't a complete villain, but them were all that villainous during the movie. And also Captain Boomerang. I thought he was good when he was on screen. He was funny, but why was he there? Like, he was gonna throw boomerangs at a fucking zombies. He was throwing boomerangs at the fucking enchantress. Like, made no sense for half the things going on. That being said, it was a lot more fun than Batman v Superman. And we'll talk about Doctor Strange next. But to be honest, if you ask me which one I want to watch again, I'd probably watch Suicide Squad again before Doctor Strange.
Oh, see, I completely disagree there. I think that was probably my favorite of the year. But
really?
So with Suicide Squad, like, the reason that you make a movie about villains is so that they can, like, so you don't have to have, I mean, so instead of turning face people into faceless zombies, you can actually have, like, oh, they just ran through a group of cops to get what they're doing, like, because they didn't care, because they're villains. That's why you have them. And also, like, if you compare them,
the only person that killed anybody that was good was fucking Amanda Waller when she offed her entire room full of for IT techs or whatever they were.
Well, yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, like, and was Deadshot any, if not better than, like, as far as morality wise, than Batman and Batman v Superman? Like, he was
probably
more of a good guy than Batman was. A lot of them were, to be honest. And this, I made this claim while you were on the phone. The worst on-screen depiction of the Joker to date, and I'm including Cesar Romero in that.
I had very mixed feelings on this version of the Joker. I thought that theatricality and his obvious bipolarness in some ways hit closer up than anyone had done in a long time. But he also was weird as shit and not very charismatic, and seemed like a kind of half-baked work in progress.
See, I don't agree at all. I like the Joker acts bipolar, but I mean, the actual, like, having a diagnosable medical condition that you can actually be like, oh, that makes sense to me. He's up and he's down. That's not the Joker. The Joker is nothing that you've ever been able to diet. Like, he's not just giving some medicine and he'll, even him out. And also just like he had a rapiness to it. I don't really know how to describe it other than that.
He did have a rapiness to him, and I didn't mind it when he was using it towards that weird ass guard. I thought that it wasn't the way I would have portrayed it, but I thought it was so creepy and strange, kind of cool. I don't know. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it just because it was so different and kind of creepy. I didn't take it as being, just pure any one disorder. I don't know. Like I thought it seemed kind of like it had a whole lot of directions it was going in, and a couple were kind of okay and weird as shit. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see that Joker for a whole movie. That's for sure.
I definitely wouldn't. And I'm glad if they're doing a Harley Quinn movie, it's like she's already Harley Quinn, and now she can just be doing shit rather than like have to go through. Though if they ever were gonna do Mad Love doesn't work with this Joker, like, at all. Like, there's no there's no tenderness to, oh, Mr. J. Like, none of that would have worked with this Joker. It's like, like, be my slave, bitch. Like, that's more this Joker, right? Like, it's a I feel like he's like, I'm Christian Grey, but I'm like amped up Christian Grey rather than, I don't know. But he was like so small part of this movie. I don't know. The Suicide Squad have awesome. This is another one where there's awesome Suicide Squad stories, and this is the one they told.
There are. There's a long history of them, and the idea that you thought, yeah, the Suicide Squad. We have a guy with a gun, a guy with boomerangs, a chick with a gun and a baseball bat. We have one guy with real powers. Yeah, let's have him fight a fucking god, basically. That was a strange way to go. They could have easily, and it would have made way more sense, I thought, with the director. They could have had it be kind of a, all right, we're sending you on a black ops mission to handle something that no one else can handle, or at least legally, and we don't care if you die, in a different scenario. But just, yeah, there's a witch who's going to nuke Detroit. Go take your baseball bat, your boomerangs, and your guns and handle business. That just made no sense to me. But that being said, I really did like some of the stuff at the beginning. I liked the stuff when they were in the bar, and it kind of gave them some time to interplay with each other. And I thought that Will Smith was at his Will Smithiest in a while. If you like Will Smith, and I have no real problem with Will Smith, he was fine. And Margot Robbie, she was good. I don't know that she's good. I would have already booked her down for 2 sequels with Suicide Squad 2 and the Gotham City Sirens both being apparently entering pre-production now. But because she also seemed like her accent kind of went in and out a little bit at times. I didn't think she was flawless like some people did, but I thought she was pretty cool.
Well, the reason they it's probably going to be even more like, I bet that there's so much money involved for the fourth and fifth movies that she's in, like, because they can't have her Jennifer Lawrencing out of that shit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We didn't even mention during Age of Apocalypse review that, like, how she's like, I'm doing it twice. You can make me blue twice for no more than 30 seconds, and then we're done. Like, it was probably repurposed footage from the last 2 movies. That's my guess. Because there's no way she's like, no. And so Margot Robbie, they can't have, like, she's a super duper star, I think, and I think was the reason why this movie was such a hit. Her and Will Smith, because Captain Boomerang sold it. Unibrow Model Girl sold it. No, and the last thing I'll say is maybe the reason why I didn't like it so much is because Arrow did it better, and then they stole all of these characters and concepts from Arrow to make this. Like, wouldn't you rather have 17 more hours of the next 3 seasons of Suicide Squad stories than this one movie?
Yeah, I liked it on Arrow a lot, but this one I feel like it had, I don't know. I feel like there was enough there that I'm not surprised they're doing a sequel. And I'm not surprised it was a hit. It was fun, and really, if they had done anything with the villains, I'm this movie with a lot. I didn't feel like they did anything with the villains. I kind of liked some things that she herself did, what Clara Delevingne, whatever her name is, as far as being kind of like her take on a witch was almost like the creepy girl from The Ring or something. I kind of liked a little bit of that. But as far as it went with her brother and then her zombies, and they're going to open the skies to make themselves gods, it was so immediately overblown, and then it didn't even put the time into the villain's motivation or story that Apocalypse did. And Apocalypse did also not very much in that vein. But if they had done something with the villains, I could have got behind this movie a lot, and I still enjoyed it.
I thought the villain should have been the Joker.
Sense? Would have made sense. Trying to kill.
Yeah, because Batman won't do it. But that's predicated on your Batman not killing. But if Batman kills, then he would have already killed this guy, and there's no point to ever have the Joker again, right? Once they fight once, neck and it's done, because this dude weighs 120 pounds. Like,
true.
One fight with Batman who kills, and there's never a Joker again. So I don't know how they're going to get around that. But B, the conceit is, I thought was going into this year was when I saw that Batman was in Suicide Squad and Joker was in Suicide Squad. I thought the conceit was, again, this was before I found out, was that Batman won't kill him, so that the whole point, the Suicide Squad's mission is, well, we have to get you guys to do it. And then at the end of the movie, it's revealed that Harley Quinn was kind of a plant by him, or was, is already Harley Quinn because of him, and then betrays the Suicide Squad themselves. and boom, you have Harley and Joker, and then you have Batman. I thought that would have been the perfect way to do both of these movies. But then you have your Batman murdering like 12 people. So why would, I mean, 20 pounds, like one fight with Ben Affleck, and he's dead.
I didn't mind that kind of origin for his fucked up face with all his fake teeth and stuff. The idea that, yeah, he fought Ben Affleck's brutal ass Batman. Ben Affleck knocked all his teeth out. I thought that was a kind of good, a kind of cool little nugget in there. And right, I mean, that kind of story. What?
If he's gonna blow up a dude for threatening to have a flamethrower, why wouldn't he kill this guy for multiple jokery?
I agree with that. I just giving it credit. I thought that design on the Joker was kind of a cool idea. Another thing about the Joker, the actual Joker himself, it was weird because he had this weird like James Cagney impression in the middle of it, and at first I felt it really, really distracting. Unlike anything I've ever really imagined the Joker sounding like or acting like. But to be fair, the Joker has been a mobster. You know, the Joker's been around since 1940. He's in his original incantations was very mobsterish. I could see that being a little bit in there, and it added to the weird combination of ADD, bipolar, manic, kind of all bundled together. I don't know. I have a lot of issues with this version of the Joker, but I also could see some things that I liked in there. I thought Leto would be a more, I thought he'd do a better job. I thought he'd do a more kind of polished job. And see, like, not only was the character kind of chaotically put together, but also like his performance was kind of chaotic and weird, which I guess if he was trying to do the whole character, you know, deep dive, staying in character for 6 months thing, I don't know. I'm trying to make excuses for that. I have no idea what he was doing for half the time. It could have been a lot better if they made it a much smaller story. And I like your idea, fine. But there's plenty of versions that kind of smaller scale story where you actually use these characters to do things that they can do and have them killing motherfuckers, not just shooting zombies like it's 1990s cyborg, murder and stuff. I don't know. That was kind of weird. And could have been a good bit better. So that being said, still left it, and I thought I had more fun than like for instance, Batman v Superman and Age of Apocalypse, or sorry, X-Men, not Age of Apocalypse.
I really don't understand why Marvel's the only one that can even like get them on a scale that feels appropriate. I guess that on a scale that feels appropriate for the characters, like. Why everything, like when Fox was making when they made the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, it was, he's gonna turn the whole city into lizard people. Like, yeah, regardless of whether, like, no, that's not Spider-Man. And I'm not praising or saying, because again, we didn't really effusively praise Civil War that much. Just that was an approach. Even that was like if somebody else makes that movie, there's like grand destruction and the whole world's destroyed, and in that it's like, no, we're just going to fight at an airport.
Okay. What we have left, moving on, if you want to talk about Star Trek or Ghostbusters, we could, or we can move into Doctor Strange and then Star Wars.
Let's just do Doctor Strange. This was my favorite of the year, I guess, of the DC Marvel movies.
Well, let me go first then this time, because it was not my favorite. Now, don't get me wrong. I liked it a lot. When I left, I thought it was a lot of fun. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt like it's kind of like if Tony Stark became a wizard. It's the same character type that we've been watching in the Marvel Universe for a while. The same kind of arc. Other people who do things like he does become his villain. Ironmonger, whatever he was, just like Justin Hammer, just like the Ant-Man bad guy. It's follow the bad guy does the same kind of stuff, and I like that. Don't get me wrong. These are all looking back, just kind of analyzing things where I feel like I could have liked it more. I could care more afterwards, because in the theater I thought it was a great movie. Nothing can really be said negatively about the way that Marvel puts a movie together when it comes to the pacing, the effects, the choreography, the mix-in of humor, but still feeling legitimate. Like, even the poorer Marvel movies are still fun, cool flicks, and they don't have the glaring mistakes that you see in Batman v Superman or in Suicide Squad. And really, Man of Steel was a more polished movie than either of the DC movies we got this year. And I had plenty of problems there on other things, but Doctor Strange, for all of its good stuff, which there's a lot, I just felt like I've seen this before.
Okay, so yes, I was with you right up until you said the villain was the same. Because they tricked you. Yes, the villain was the same until we get to a psychedelic fucking half giant devil in a different...
The Dormammu thing?
Yeah, and because
that was great.
It was
that was fantastic.
The villain was exactly the same until that point, and then that... But you're right, it was the same until that point. But the fact that was... See, my favorite part about this movie was the little thing.
What?
Was one little thing was my favorite part about this movie, and it totally endeared me to it, and probably a little bit too much, was when he's first like being shown magic and shit, like he tumbles through this thing, and normally when TV shows, movies, anything show someone on some psychedelic drug, it's just like colors and stuff, and when he starts to look at his hand, and each finger is growing a hand, growing a hand, growing a hand, growing a hand,
yeah,
I was like, I've seen that on acid before. I've seen that before. Like, somebody has done drugs and is making this movie, which made me happy.
No, look, they did an incredible job with the movie. The rendition of magic, the weird mix of kaleidoscopes and Inception style, movements, plus that kind of acid trippy thing. There was so much good stuff. And for all people want to bitch about the washing of the Ancient One, I thought Tilda Swinton did a great job. My only negative is just I felt like I've seen this before, and
you're totally right.
I read a good amount. No, I didn't. I read a good amount of comics that interacted with Doctor Strange. I never read a ton of Doctor Strange comics. He was never my dude. And you know what? This Doctor Strange was more charismatic and charming than he ever was in the comics, to my recollection. But I still felt like I've seen this before. And although it left me feeling that was a lot of fun, I felt I don't want to see it again, at some point.
See, okay, I actually totally agree. Pretty much up until they start dealing with Dormammu. Because like that last scene, Dormammu, I'm here to bargain. Dormammu, I'm here to bargain. That's one of the 5 or 6 best Marvel scenes.
No, that was a great way to get out of the trap of we just need the third period or the third act, blow 'em up fight, and that was great. Going for less rather than more. There was tons of stuff going on, tons of obviously incredible effects making that come alive, but it's not just a laser fight with Dormammu. It was wit and it was witty. Who knows if it lasted a day, an hour, or 10 years.
Which in my head it went for longer than they showed. And another thing so in X-Men I said we had seen the effect of all the pieces of cars and all of our stuff rising to the skies before. In Doctor Strange, I don't think I had I haven't seen when they rewound and fast forwarded time and like stuff was rebuilding itself. That was an effect that I hadn't seen before. So
yeah,
just a little thing. All the shit rise into a big cloud in the sky, which just do it a little bit differently. And it, in my mind says, oh, that's that. So I think you're right that story-wise, it was almost like just beat for beat a Marvel, just boom, 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 white guy does this, white guy learns this, white guy does this. But the effects in between, I think, because that was my favorite part of the movie, was dope enough and was different enough that it made me really enjoy it.
No, you're right. Their use of effects was incredible. And don't get me wrong, even saying that it follows the Iron Man template, and it was, white guy's overconfident prick. Oh, but he learned some humility, and now he learns a new, better way of doing things, and now he's a superhero. Like, even following that same frame movie. And I would recommend anybody go watch it and have fun. I want something more from Marvel now. I want to get into, like, I know it's more dangerous because it's harder to make them successfully, as DC has proved. It's harder to do a good job consistently. But I want to see Marvel do more stuff like Civil War, where they at least try to have kind of a point and a moral. Like, they knocked out of the park with Winter Soldier. Civil War was not as good as Winter Soldier, but it was still very good. And it's still, even with its few flaws that we kind of went into yesterday, leaving it, I still wasn't like, I was like, oh man, they messed that up. No, still thought it was great. Had a lot of fun. But, they went for a lot higher bar. Now, Doctor Strange, it was their first time, had very little connection to the rest of the universe, and they made a great, fun movie. It was similar to Ant-Man in that way, though I thought Ant-Man was probably better, at least for me.
Okay. So thank you for reminding me. So my least favorite part of this movie was just take 5 seconds out of your day, out of your movie, and reference what's happening on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is dealing with magic books at the exact same time in other dimensions. All you have to do is mention the Darkhold, which is the plot line of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it comes from the library. Like, they came from there. I know it did. I've seen a little backstory that they did on it, so I know it did. But like, say in the movie, oh, there used to be, in the little restricted section of the library, just have one missing and be like, wonder where that book went. And then everybody,
right. I feel that
people who don't watch S.H.I.E.L.D. it's just a line. And a lot of times little throwaway lines like that, like in Star Wars, lead to much cooler things later on. But people who do know watch S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been like, I know, that's Ghost Rider. Like, what that whole thing there. So that was probably my favorite part, was just how dope S.H.I.E.L.D. was this season. And usually I'm mad at how they're ham forcing, like when Lady Sif just showed up, or last year the way now Avengers 3 happened, or Civil War happened, so S.H.I.E.L.D.'s back. Is a little ham-fisted. This would have been the reverse, where like just acknowledge the show exists. Somebody. But yeah, that was Doctor. I was, the other big thing about the movie was I really don't like, I hate that Sherlock show.
Oh yeah.
No, it drives me up a wall, and I don't like Cumberbatch. I waited my whole life to hear or see Smog, and his voice was just so underwhelming as Smog. I really liked him in this. So, kudos to him for because I went in thinking like, oh, I'm not a big Cumberbatch.
I like Sherlock okay. I don't like it enough that I ever watch it, because each episode's an hour and a half, and that's a movie. And for me to watch 3 movies of the same characters a year, it's got to be a little faster, a little bit more engrossing, and it's very, very slowly unraveling. And his character is just, I'm a smart prick. I like him fine. But he was very good in this. This is my favorite role he's been in for sure. He was funny. He was cool. I liked him fine as Khan, which
okay, I forgot about that. I just was gonna say, I just want to throw out how underwhelming he was as Smog, and I'm still kind of bitter about that.
Well, to be fair, I think that most of the Hobbit trilogy was pretty fucking underwhelming.
That is, other than the very last fight in the very last movie, yes. Anyway.
Well, I mean, if you just take out tons of shit and leave in
the Hobbit
shorter version, fine having a little bit of the Gandalf and the whatever the High Council is going to fight the Witch King in Angmar. Like, okay, a little bit of that was fine, but there was just so much stupid crap. And we're not here to bash on 3-year-old Hobbit movies, but yeah, Smog was amongst the many disappointing parts of the Hobbit.
Okay, so the last and certainly not least comic book movie of the year was Star Wars Rogue One, and I've seen this movie twice in theaters, and another time on my computer. This is my favorite thing since Guardians of the Galaxy. I think, like, video game, movie, book, comic, TV.
I love it. I think it's definitely. I really liked The Force Awakens last year. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the Star Wars movie since Jedi.
I for sure, I would. The fact that they didn't call a saga movie like episode 0, that would have been that, like it would have been fine. But also the fact that it wasn't dealing with the family, dealing with a different family, but they just I guess we should pause for a second.
I was gonna wait to the end. We have a more joyous conversation about the movie first, and because of what the last scene is.
Yeah, I just bummed myself out. So yeah, I think you're right. Let's just power through this, and we can do that tribute at the end. Yeah, I'll just keep going. I just totally bummed myself out. You gotta talk for a second.
Yeah. Um, Rogue One was incredible. Rogue One,
Right.
it had the joy. It did what it was supposed to. It brought me back to even better than Episode 7 did by collecting the old arcs and calling back to the old story arcs. This actually brought us back to Star Wars, to A New Hope. I hate calling it A New Hope because I don't know how you remember the title. Because I guess for you, maybe you were young enough that the re-release in '97, when they kind of officially gave it the New Hope title, seems official to you. But to me, it's still Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. And and so this brought me back to Star Wars. This brought me back to Tatooine. It wasn't on Tatooine, but it's about to be. It didn't feature Luke Skywalker, but we know why he matters now, why he was able to beat the Death Star. All the things that are referenced are so cool. And a lot of people bitch about the exhaust port, and it's been in Kevin Smith conversations and all kinds of internet things. It seemed to me like a difficult thing to get above. Most things have exhaust ports. If they just want to say, hey, for this thing to fly around, it has to have engines that expel flame and jet propulsion. And if you're able to get inside one of those jet propulsion engines, you'll blow it up there. Like I've never thought that was a big deal that needed anything to solve. But obviously a lot of people did. And the fact that this movie, solves it and fits it into a great character arc, I thought was very cool. I heard some people kind of bitching and moaning about how, well, it's obviously supposed to be a war movie, and they ignore the relationship building between the group in the first part, and they focus more on her. And I'm like, yeah, because it's not just a war movie; it's also a Star Wars movie, and she's the point. It's her redemption story. It's her growth from not caring enough to redeeming her dad, following through on his and saving. I mean, like it was also a war movie, and I also will contend that fuck you, they did a great job of making me like Chakotay Ikwe or whatever. I thought that Forrest Whitaker was way cooler in this than I thought he was going to be from the preview. I thought they did a great job with damn near all of it. Little parts in the script where the dialogue wasn't flawless, but shit, after the last 3 of the last 4 Star Wars movies, I thought that the script was definitely not a problem, and the rest of the movie was so well directed, so well paced, so well put together in almost every facet. Even John Williams' less score was, I thought, incredible. I loved this movie. I loved it.
Yeah,
and I haven't mentioned the final fucking sequence, which was
clearly
amazing dessert.
Yeah, which totally redeemed. I mean, not even it. Well, anyway, yeah. So yeah, the idea to go back and fill in the plot holes of the first movie is just. I mean, it's not even plot holes. It's literally like at great expense, the rebels won this victory. Like it says it in the crawl, and to just be like, yeah, let's make a movie. Such a brilliant idea, and actually executed. Yeah. It makes sense. And there's so much planet hopping, and there's so much like get the drive, but it all they kind of made all the MacGuffins work, and Alan Tudyk they were
murdered it. He killed it. He was so good. I mean, what's his name? K2SO.
K2SO. They were like, let's take Rocket and Groot and make them one character.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
Because whether it's BB-8, Doctor Strange cloak, which we didn't get into, or Groot, Disney over the last 5 or 6 years has proven that like they love throwing in like a non-speaking character who's sentient that can make cute things. And in this, they're like, let's do that, but let's also make him a badass and tell jokes.
Yeah.
Like they made him Rocket and Groot. And he was
he was great. He was phenomenal. I liked Cassian also, the rebel, was. I thought he was.
Oh God,
Nas. What you say?
Poor Nas. That guy has had the worst year, man. He was the star of The Night Of on HBO, and
yeah,
all the world shit that happened to him there, and then he ends up in space and dies.
Yep. No, it was just so good. The casting I thought was phenomenal. What did you think about Grand Moff Tarkin?
I was weirded out by it because that guy died like before the Empire, I think, came out. But
I think he was alive until Jedi-ish era. But still, it's been at least 20 years, if not 30 years.
Disney has been trying to has been coming up with. I think their grand plan is to not have to pay actors anymore, because if you think like it goes back to Tron 2 came out like 5 or 6 years ago, and they had this like we have this weird technology. We want to make Jeff Bridges younger again, and it'll work, and it kind of worked, and then like 5 years go by, Civil War comes out earlier this year, and Robert Downey Jr. is 20 years old again. Holy fuck!
Right.
And it really worked, but even then it was kind of they had to like make it like through a filter of you're watching a screen where something is playing, and then in this they're like, no, we can just bring dead people back.
I thought Tarkin was really well done. We'll get more to the very end. I did not think the CGI on the other cameo at the end, we'll just talk about it, on Leia at the end was as good. I thought the eyes looked a little bit more soulless. But I thought that Tarkin, man, there was a few glitches here and there, not glitch even, but a few points where I was like, yeah, they still need to get this a little more tight. But man, he was good. It was good. Whatever the combination was of the actor they had underneath plus their layering, they did an amazing job.
And I do like the Krennic Tarkin relationship of like that the Empire is a bureaucracy and there's infighting, and but when you have infighting between two people in the Empire, it's not just like backstabbing in a memo. It's like, no, I'm gonna blow you up on a planet. Like
yeah.
That because it's the normal like everyday like bureaucracy of 21st century life, but instead it's like two psychopaths who happen to work in a megalomaniacal empire. Which Krennic was, I think, my favorite part of the movie. It's just this guy who's never been mentioned, but it actually makes sense that he's never been mentioned because Tarkin probably like has people sent to the brig if they ever bring up his name in the deaths. Like if you think about Krennic, you say the word Krennic in the actual Death Star in the first two movies, Tarkin's like, well, off with it, like actor. So, everybody died.
Everybody.
But, have you ever heard of these people before?
None that weren't alive at the end. That's for sure. They were all brand new characters as far as I know. And I don't even know if we ever seen. I was watching New Hope. I was watching parts of New Hope after that came out. Have we ever seen the K2 droids before?
No, not in New Hope. But my favorite thing about this movie was as much as it was fan service to fans of the actual trilogy, this was fan service to people who watch Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
Because that droid
having Saul Guerra being that big a feature, that was pretty crazy.
And Bail Organa, he voiced, and the Rebels connections were just everywhere. But those droids, they already have one turned on, like they already have a couple of those that they've turned to their side on Rebels.
On the K2 droids?
Yeah.
I'm a season behind on Rebels. I don't really get to watch it very often, but I did end up seeing all of season 1 before season 2 started. Oh, and that last episode with Ahsoka and Vader was pretty incredible.
Yeah, season 2 starts with like Vader. You did see the first.
Was that?
You did see the first episode of season 2 then, if you saw them fight.
That was the last episode of season 1, wasn't it? The fight?
It was anyway. But no, the Rebels. The Clone Wars connection. Clone Wars is secretly my favorite part of the Star Wars universe at this point. Like, I think I like it more than the movies secretly. And have characters and have plot lines. And when they reference the old clone troopers that like they're all dying, and that's like oh my god, you know, we know they age fast, but yeah, so like what happened to like Fives and Rex and those guys? But they don't need to show us, just alluding to it. The only thing I thought was ham-fisted was the guys from the bar at Tatooine. They were there just because someone thought it was funny that they were there.
I didn't mind it, but I did agree that there was no excuse me, no purpose of them being there. That means, and also, what are the chances that they really, survive that explosion in Jeddah that happens all of hours later, and they make it all the way to Tatooine within what, a week, 4 days, something like that.
I feel like that was there because somebody watched that Robot Chicken sketch and was like, let's give the backstory.
Wouldn't surprise me, and I don't have a problem with it, but it did seem kind of shoved in. What did you think of Vader's pun?
Oh, the Bacta tank or whatever?
No, his pun, be careful not to choke on your aspirations.
Dude, totally. Now people say like, oh, Darth Vader wouldn't make those, but fucking Hayden Christensen would.
And I think that they were trying to echo I find your lack of faith disturbing. And I think Vader, when he promotes random people to Admiral in what's it called? In Empire, after murdering the previous admirals, I think Vader's got a little bit of a dark sense of humor there that people don't want to give him credit for. And I didn't have a big problem with it. It did seem a little on the nose, but
I totally thought it was fine because yeah, I mean, Anakin would he totally make that joke and then he would probably choke you out later just because I mean to further, and no one else thought it was funny, he would think it was funny.
Especially the Anakin from Clone Wars.
That's what I'm going on. Yeah, that Anakin for sure would.
Yeah,
he murders children. Which okay, so before we get to Vader, what was Donnie Yen's character's name? Because whatever his character was, that dude was dope.
Chitte or Chitle Ikwe, I can't remember exactly, but he was cool as can be. I would have liked to have seen another demonstration of his fighting skills. I thought
Who is Donnie Yen, and why have I never seen him fight before?
He's big in Chinese cinema. I think you may have seen him in some old kung fu movies back in the 90s that we might have watched, but he was never a American star. He never bothered to come over here a lot.
He was so dope. The idea that there are other people connected to the Force besides just like the 10 people involved, story, like of course there are, but also this finally kind of not explained, but like showed you quickly the world forgets about shit. Like all the events that like, because it's literally like, I mean, the kids are what, like 18, so it was like 20 years. I mean, how old are Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill supposed to be in the first movie?
20.
So yeah, so 20
21.
Years. Episode 3 and episodes 4. It just shows you. I don't know. They did a good job showing you that how some parts are still connected to that, and like there's still a Senate that's being threatened and shit like that, and I think it even gets dissolved at some point in the beginning of the first movie or second movie or something.
Your volume cut out there briefly. What did you say about the first movie?
Doesn't Emperor Palpatine dissolve the Senate in the first movie, or I guess in the second movie?
Yeah, I think in the second one. Yeah.
So the idea that people that there's still a bureaucracy in the anyway, I just thought of the connections between the prequels, which
third
are a little shat on at this point. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I just loved it. And Darth Vader showed up at the end and just makes the whole year.
Dude, that Vader scene at the end was incredible. I thought the movie was over. They've got the card with the information on it. We know where that's going. We know it's about to get handed over
right there
to Leia for R2-D2, and then game style ships we see, and then we see the wall. We hear that noise, the wall bursting open, and you hear the breathing. And it was so. I mean, I was like, "Oh my god, are you serious?" they're going to do this. And then the lightsaber kicks on. And you realize it's the first time we've seen a lightsaber the entire movie. And he just annihilates. It was so cool. It's the Vader scene in Vader costume that we've been waiting for years.
Okay, to be fair, that has happened on Rebels a couple times and has also been voiced by James Earl Jones. But it was pretty dope seeing it in live action, and it certainly wasn't brutal when the lightsaber through the guy and he keeps cutting through the
And he reaches back and cuts one guy in half that he had held on the ceiling, and then flings him away before murdering more. I mean, he was vicious. That was awesome.
I know it's not canon anymore, but that was the Vader from those Force Unleashed games that was alluded to.
Yep.
I know
that was super cool. So I guess that brings us to the very last scene, which
hold on. It does bring us there, but there were so many characters from Rebels in this show and so many connections to Clone Wars. When Bail Organa said, "I trust her with my life," and in my head and in the theater, somebody said it out loud, was like, "Ahsoka!" And that's not, he's talking to his daughter, but Disney, I will give you all of my money if you put her in one of your live action movies. Just do it. They've got
that'd be so cool. Rebels takes place how far before this?
Season 1 is 6 years before A New Hope.
So about 5 years at this point.
Yeah, so now we're almost through with season 3. So yeah.
Why wouldn't they make a Star Wars Rebels movie? Because you figure Kanan and the kid, they've got to die at some point.
Oh, so okay, so you know what? Yes, they do have to. In this movie, they say General Syndulla, and they've confirmed that what he was talking about Hera, and that over the intercom.
Yeah.
When they say General, that's her
dad with Hera. The Resistance also.
Yeah, but she's a general, and they've confirmed that that's who they was talking about.
Okay.
Like the chopper's in the movie twice, and the ghost is in the battle at the end. Like you see it flies at the very end.
I saw that.
So in my head, yeah, I'm still.
You figure with Kanan and what's the kid's name? Kanan and Ezra. Yeah, they've got to die at some point. So why not have Ahsoka and them in a Star Wars Rebels movie and give us some more Darth Vader?
Give us more Darth Vader, and dude, I'm sure Freddie Prinze Jr. is down for a live action movie. Like that's who does.
It's been a while since he's been in one, so yeah, I'm sure he would be.
Yeah, he does voices for like all this shit now. But anyway, yeah. So they weren't talking about Ahsoka; they were talking about Princess Leia.
Which brings us to.
And God damn you, 2016.
Seriously. First, I will say I did not think that the CGI on Leia was as good as Tarkin. It felt like maybe they were like, "Hey, we should totally do this." And Disney had originally been like, "No," and they saw how good Tarkin looked and said, "Okay, do it." And she still looked good. I had multiple people that I talked to who thought that they had a live actress play Leia who just looked a lot like her. Not as many as I had to say they thought that Tarkin was a real actor. Multiple people I've spoken to who thought they just found someone to play Grand Moff Tarkin and hadn't seen New Hope and recently enough to realize, oh shit, that's the exact same dude. Having her there was really cool, and now it's helped make this all the more heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, Carrie Fisher passed away, and God damn it, just sucked. Like she was, Mark Hamill and her. I guess just Harrison Ford kind of was just like, once Jedi film, he was like, I'm done with it. And Mark Hamill and her have just embraced the shit out of their Star Wars-ness for the last 20, 30 years, to the point where, the first thing I thought it wasn't even Princess Leia was a stupid scene from a Kevin Smith movie where Jason Mewes, tries to give her head.
Yeah, that is a great scene. The unwritten book of the road.
Which now George Carlin's dead too, so that's who. Did
you see that Carrie Fisher's mother died today?
What?
Debbie Reynolds, is that her name?
I did not see that. What?
She released that statement yesterday, thanking everybody for the support and the love for her daughter. And then today, Carrie Fisher's funeral, she had a stroke and then died in the hospital.
Oh my God, no, I didn't hear that at all.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Like I saw she had a stroke when I was walking in to do my radio show at like 2 p.m. I got home from that around 5 and saw that she had passed.
Oh my God. I mean, Jesus. Now, Carrie Fisher's daughter is in the next movie and was in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, I was just going to, I already felt bad for them, but my Lord. Yeah, but anyway, Princess, I mean, let's just wrap it up with a little, I mean, Princess Leia was the only female in the first 3 Star Wars movies. You know, the only female who passed the Bechdel test in any really geek movie up until like 2006. Where she
was the coolest female character. I mean, she was tough. She took no shit. Her first scene was being defiant, refusing to give in to torture. Or not her first scene, but I guess, our scene was shooting fucking stormtroopers and sneaking the plans away. Her second sequence is getting tortured, not giving in. When she gets rescued, is taking the gun from Luke and then blasting a hole so they can escape. Back to Han, she doesn't take any mess. She chokes Jabba out with a chain. Leia was an awesome bad chick.
See that?
And
I think that was there have been a lot of tributes, and so if you've heard her, there's been a story passed around where someone's asking her recently about how sexist the gold chain bikini was, and she was like, "Yeah, I was a slave, but then I got to choke him and cut his head off with it. I thought it was pretty awesome." Like that. What a she's like, yeah, and then I don't know, the idea. She just owned it. In a way Harrison Ford never did, in a way that even George Lucas never did for 30. He made the prequels and he was like, "Oh, not again." He let other people write his extra Star Wars. Like Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, they definitely just, and Mark Hamill, became the Joker in a lot of people's eyes. So she was the one that really, I don't know, that just sucks. She's like a year older than my mom. It's just like, what the fuck?
No, it's creepy, and it's actually a little more heartbreaking than I thought it would be. When I first, like, the moment I read it, I was like, oh. I think a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that I've watched the original trilogy twice in the past year. Seeing her, rejuvenated self on screen twice in the last week and a half. She's been an important part of my life for a long time, and seeing her on screen, seeing her character come alive and be reflected in her, and even as she's gotten older, her shit talking, insulting Trump, taking no mess, still in real life. Watch, and it sucks. It definitely sucks.
Totally. Yeah, I didn't. Because I don't listen to much music, so David Bowie's like, yeah, okay, that's whatever. Prince, yeah, that sucks, but I don't know. Yeah, that totally sucked. Next year, we have. I was just gonna do a little look forward in the head. So we have, to the very end of the year, we'll have Star Wars Episode 8. We'll have Wonder Woman in March, Justice League in July. What does Marvel have next year?
Thor Ragnarok, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, not in that order.
Yes. Okay. Of all the joy that just got sucked out of my brain when talking about Carrie Fisher not being around, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailer.
That's going to be awesome.
that is the best trailer I've seen in years. And Spider-Man, I think, right?
Yeah, Spider-Man also, for sure.
So I'm sure 2 of those movies will be really good, 2 will suck, and the other 3 will be like, oh, those are all right.
Looking at it, I'm excited as hell for Wonder Woman. Justice League, I'm kind of just apprehensive about at this point. Could be really good. It could be a piece of crap. Like, it's hard to have any expectations of Zack Snyder.
How could you? Thor Ragnarok haven't been shown a single clip of that movie yet, so we have no idea.
I didn't. A lot of people think of Thor 2 and say it was like one of the worst Marvel movies. I liked Thor 2 just fine. Thor 1 was good, but I thought it more kind of just accomplished its goal of setting him up and doing things. I thought Thor 2 was pretty awesome at points. I have hope for it, and we'll see. I hope it's introduced some Planet Hulk type stuff. I mean, it could be really fucking cool.
It could be, or it could be half that, like all the movies that came out this year, literally every one but Rogue One, it was like a half-assed version of the idea. That's part of the reason why I like Rogue One so much, was that it was, in my head, I didn't immediately come up with what I think is a better, like, making sense of a plot. Rogue One, I was like, wow, I don't know if that was really good. I couldn't come up. Immediately, I wasn't like, oh, what if they did this? What if they did so much better stuff? That one, I was just like, dope. But that would be Superman. Really, Deadpool, I guess, is the other one, right? I don't read enough Deadpool where I could have wrote that. But the rest of these, I could have wrote, we could have wrote better ones. And Rogue One, I liked because it was like, wow, that was really well done. I don't know about that.
It was.
And
so
for all
sorry.
of these, Justice League looks like what they're going to choose: Aquaman, Flash, Wonder Woman's going to name it, Superman's going to have the black costume. There's going to be Steppenwolf and Parademons. It sounds like it could be super dope. And if Greg Berlanti was making it on TV every Wednesday, I would think it was going to be the best thing ever. But Zack Snyder's making it, so who the fuck knows?
And yeah, there's tons of cool images, tons of cool little things. The preview was good. The preview already had more humor than was in the entire Batman v Superman movie. I'm excited for it in a very, very subdued way. But to say that I have high hopes would be a lie. I hope it's good. Not I have hopes it's going to be great or anything. My team about Spider-Man. How ready / desperate / caring are you about a new Spidey?
Hard to be any of those things. The trailer was about as perfect as it could be, and the song choice of that MGMT song was great. But we've seen the movie 5 times in the last 15 years.
Yep.
This will be.
And I'll tell you what. I think what makes me perhaps the least excited is that I still liked the fuck out of the Tobey Maguire movies. And I resent how much everyone totally bashes Spider-Man 3. Not that it was flawless by any means, but I thought they did a lot of cool stuff in that. And I think that the Andrew Garfield stylings, there were some parts that were kind of cool. The way they kind of used a little bit more of the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. But, I guess I'm just we'll see. I think that they nailed Spider-Man. First movie was incredible. Spider-Man 2, maybe even better. Spider-Man 3, I still liked a lot. Yeah, a little bit crowded, but I thought it was still really cool in a lot of ways. And then, I don't know. I liked the last 2 Spider-Mans fine, especially the first one. But like you said, I'm going to turn the whole city into lizards. Really? It's got to be that big? The second one, I'm going to kill Gwen Stacy and give Green Goblin 5 minutes of screen time, and it seems stupid she's there in the first place. And I don't know. I like the last 2 fine. I don't own Amazing Spider-Man because I bought it for $5 at some point at Walmart, but I don't even own Spider-Man 2. Didn't love it. And like I said, I'm still in love with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, so this is going to have to be good.
Well, I'm definitely still in love with Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane. But, I mean, I just think, wonder if they could have just used him as a pop-in for the next 3 or 4 Marvel movies. If Stephen Strange is fixing someone at the beginning of Doctor Strange who's saved by Spider-Man from a car accident. And you have a brief interaction with Peter, and and then I don't know, the idea that they just went straight forward to just boom right into this whole Spider-Man thing is just, needed. They should have waited a little bit. But he was super dope in Civil War.
I mean, to be fair, Sony has to make a movie every 6 years or some shit, 5 years, or else they lose it. But it's only been 3 years since the last one, so they could have given it a little more time.
Well, I wonder if the deal for Marvel to kind of make it for them was you have to make it for us now, rather than you can use them in Civil War, but you have to the next one of your movies that has to be ours because they fast track the shit. Like Black Panther's been in production way longer than that Spider-Man. Announced, cast, and made, and the trailer's out. So I mean, the last time we saw Hulk, this kid hadn't even been cast as Spider-Man.
Yeah, you're right. And Avengers 2, yeah.
So I just thought it was fast. It's just way too fast. And same with Justice League. Justice League's gonna have Flash. Gonna have 12. My whole thing is everything should be a TV show. And my dream for the DC universe is for Zack Snyder to fail and for them to make an HBO Batman show that's connected to Ollie's world somehow, and for them to just give them the concepts of Parademons, Suicide Squad, and just like have 9 TV shows. I don't care. I feel like they make their stuff so much. They make it for me rather than for everybody, and I guess that's the issue. I mean, there's 1.5 million of us rather than 100. So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap it up. What was your favorite comic movie or comic book / sci-fi movie or event of last year?
Invasion.
Invasion. What was your favorite one in theaters?
Because there's not even a question. Invasion I've watched 3 times and it's only been like a month. I don't think I've watched any of these movies again yet other than Rogue One.
Huh.
So Rogue One.
Rogue One. I think Rogue One was mine too. I obviously thought it would be Batman v Superman. Yeah. It was not. Deadpool.
I am proud of you for not just because you love Batman so much that you were able to forgive the flaws of Chris Nolan and see what was actually like a really cool thing that was there in the third movie, which I've actually come around to, that there was some cool stuff there. But this one I was just like, nope, he kills people, go fuck yourself. I couldn't. I'm
like I said, I can watch it and describe some things in there that I thought were good, but I think what I said yesterday probably says it all for me. I love Batman to death, my favorite character in all of fiction, and I bought the extended Blu-ray 5 months ago now, and I watched it once.
Yeah, so that would be my least favorite as well. But the other thing was, I think Jessica Jones probably could have been the best of these movies had they just made like a 3-hour or 2.5-hour Jessica Jones movie.
Jessica Jones was incredible.
But the last 4 hours were just, they could have squished that down. But that's why I like TV better, because even though the last 4 episodes of Jessica Jones were superfluous, you probably don't get any of the what's her friend or Patty Jen, you don't get any of that stuff. You don't get the cop. You probably lose half of that. So that's why I think everything should be a TV show.
And you're right, the Batman show needs to be on motherfucking HBO, especially because HBO and Warner Brothers obviously have a deal, because every Batman animated movie is on HBO right now. Go. Every Batman movie from the 90s is on HBO Go. They obviously have a nice deal there. Get to it. Make that show. Have you not seen what's on Netflix? Like, I know you love Ben Affleck. You can have 2. Batman is, you don't need to have any one kind of version. We've already had 5 actors, 6 actors play Batman, 5 in the last 20 years, 25 years. Go for it. It's okay.
Well, the idea that, and this will be the last thing, that, Batman isn't, I don't think you could make a Superman. Maybe, I think you could, because you can make Supergirl, so I guess that's wrong. But like, maybe you wouldn't want to pay for an HBO Superman show, because that would just be, the spectacle would be too much. But like, arrow cost to make, like, just spend a little bit more than that, and you're not only making half the episodes. So like, the equivalent of one cost of a Green Arrow show, you could make 10 episodes. Film it noir style, make it dark. Like, Batman doesn't need to have explosions and giant, things. You could just have them fighting people. Like, just that's cool.
No, I totally agree. So, what are you most excited for 2017? This is the last question I have. What one we discussed, or anything else comes to your head? What's the biggest first movie? But if you want to add on just other thing from TV, add that too.
Because the first thing that pops in my head is Mass Effect Andromeda, but that's a video game. So it should be Justice League. It should be Spider-Man. It should be a lot of things. The Guardians of the Galaxy True trailer is fucking flawless. It's the most fun trailer I've seen it's the most fun trailer I've seen maybe in 10 years. So it's Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because the trailer is just so good.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 close for me. I think mine's Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was so good in Batman v Superman, and there's so much riding on this movie.
I just don't trust.
What was that?
I just don't trust. I don't trust Warner Brothers.
Me either. Me either. But it looks good. It looks like they have got a good feel for it. I thought she did a great job. And it's not Zack Snyder. They've got a new director. This is the first one that will have been produced primarily after Jeff Johns was put in charge last year. Suicide Squad was already like 95% finished by the time he got his little appointment. So I'm trusting in him and hoping that this lives up to what it should be, because this is the first female superhero to carry her own movie. It's DC's chance to not what Justice League's trying to do, where they just jump into the Avengers, but to actually level by breaking some ground and premiering a female superhero being badass, powerful, in charge, still cool and hot. I mean, everything. This is their chance, and woe be unto them.
I think you just convinced me that, yeah, Wonder Woman's probably my most excited. Yeah, I was gonna. The trailer is good. It's just the trailer's not Guardians of the Galaxy good.
It's not.
But how could it be? Because just the all the stuff. But you're right. I think it bet DC Warner better not fuck this up.
There's so much riding on it, not just for DC, but for female superheroes, for female superhero fans. Like, there's a lot riding on this movie.
For women, like, just in general, like the fact that like men will go see us. I don't think it's going to be a hit. If you had asked me a month and a half ago, I would have said it's going to be a mega hit. But I mean, people aren't. I mean, strong, powerful women, we don't seem to be so down with that. So
you are correct. At least 46% of us aren't big fans at this point. Okay, so anyway, well, that's it for me. You got anything else to finish up with?
Nope, just strong, powerful woman, Rip Carrie Fisher. That's just the last, putting two and two together.
Yeah, Rip Carrie Fisher. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This was Comic Books on TV on the big screen. Talking about the big screen. We'll be back. Do you know when shows return?
No, because fucking Marvel isn't airing Agents of Carter right now, so I don't really know. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has like 15 more episodes they have to run, because they only ran like 7 or 8, right? So
yeah, they only ran 8, I think maybe 9, but no more than that.
The rest of them have all 12. Got to be like January 5th or 6th or something. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe we have a month. Anything that we should plan on talking about mid-January? You want to do a preview show or anything?
Sorry. No, I don't think.
Not really? Well, if we think of something, we can put a notice out and do a preview show. We kind of did a preview show. We did the look back the first half. And this is Comic Books on TV. I'm Hunter Terry.
I'm Ford Kendrick. Have a good one, folks.